Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com, your home for the best fantasy basketball tools in the entire history of the internet. That's right. If you look back through the ages, through time, into history, #basketball.com has the best fantasy basketball tools in the history of the internet. It's proven. It's a fact. Go to #basketball.com right now. Check them out. They help me out every single week. Even though my weeks have been kind of hit or miss this year, they always add a little bit something to my game. #basketball.com. I'm your host, Mike Catron. And joining me as always is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Ooh, and there's an announcement coming about those tools that you people can be look forward to.
I'm excited.
There's actually a new tool, I believe, coming next week.
Wow, that is great news. See, they're constantly improving over there at #basketball.com. They really take your input. I know I've personally had some input into some of the tools that are on the site, just trying to make it better, for our listeners. And follow them at #basketball on Twitter and throw them your feedback. They are as receptive to feedback as we are here at Watching the Boxes. Tyler, how have you been?
I've been good, Mike. How about yourself?
You know what? It's not bad. I survived the blizzard of 2018 here in Chicago. It was rough. It snowed for, I want to say, 10 or 11 hours here. So Godspeed to everybody who drove to work, because I certainly didn't.
Well, that is crazy. But I do have a Twitter question for you to kick off the show.
Oh, wow. Listener question. All right. This is good stuff.
Okay, so this goes right up our alley because we're talking about the waiver wire. So the question is, would you drop Mikal Bridges, Jonathan Isaac, or Trey Burke? So you got to drop one of those three, or maybe two of those three, to pick up DeAndre Bembry or Jeremy Lin in a 12-team, 9-category league.
Ooh, okay. Let's go one by one. The two guys we might be picking up, and who was the other one? Bembry?
Yep, and Jeremy Lin.
All right. Well, I mean, I believe DeAndre Bembry was one of the guys we were going to talk about, so this does work right into our hands, Tyler. This is what is called great radio. This is not radio though, so it's not that great. So Bembry's had two good games, right? He's played 26, 27 minutes in those two games. Very small sample size. One of those games was a blowout against Boston where they got pretty much handed to him. But the Charlotte game was a close game. And you're looking at a guard who gets the occasional block, right? Well, I guess he's a forward. Sorry, DeAndre Bembry, not my favorite player. I thought he was a guard.
He's a guard. Wing. Like
he's a wing. I think he plays like, you know what? I'll have to go look at the positional rankings, but I thought he was playing two every once in a while.
He is. So in his rookie season, he played 61% at shooting guard. This year, 71% small forward, 24% shooting guard, 5% power forward. By Basketball References breakdown, take that for what it's worth. But here's the other reality too. They're talking about the Hawks where they're playing Trey Minutes. Trey Minutes.
That's what they should. That's a great nickname. Put that on Basketball Reference.
They're playing Trey Young a ton of minutes, and they're playing Jeremy Lin to back up. So the team can skew the other players' positions, especially when we're talking about a bench guy who doesn't play a ton. Like just because they have other point guards.
Yeah, that's my problem with this question, I guess.
People ask me this about the Mavericks, and it drives me crazy. About Luka Doncic. It's like, what position does he play? Like, well, he often guards the other team's power forward. But on offense, he often has the ball in his hands more than anyone. So is he the point guard or the power forward? You tell me. I don't know.
Yeah, and like we're moving into a position in this basketball, and actually in one of our listener leagues, we've tried to kind of adopt that philosophy by doing, 3 guards, 3 forwards. And in fact, one of the leagues, the experimental 3-category league that we're doing with our friend Alex Raclean. Our setup is point guard, guard, forward, forward, 2-3, 2-3, 4-5, 4-5, and then 2 flex. So it's like bigs, wings, and then like your true guards, and then whatever you want. So it's trying to do the small, big, and wing, because that's the kind of the future of the game. And I've liked that kind of setup where you can really, and Fantrax is very generous with the positional attributes that it gives to each one of its players. Like, Ben Simmons can be a basically every single type of player except for a power forward and a center. So it's like, oh, and quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Simmons becomes a power forward at some point in the season on Fantrax. So it's very, very generous. And I really think that is where the future, like, it's kind of going to skew fantasy basketball, I think. So that might be something for a very an off-season what do we do about positions type of episode. But let's talk about this very question. Lynn and Bimri are the 2 pickups.
2 potential pickups.
I feel like they can't. If you're going to go with one, it cancels the other one out. So if I have to go between the 2, I'm going with Lynn. So I'm throwing Bimri out, and I'm talking about only Jeremy Lin at this point. Because I think Lynn's the better. I think Lynn's the better pickup here. Higher ceiling, more potential for minutes.
I'll agree with you that more potential for minutes. If you look at per 36 numbers, DeAndre Bembry, even if you look at his career numbers, look pretty tasty. I mean, We're talking pretty good rebounds, some good assists, 1.5 steals, 0.9 blocks, 11.3 points. Like, it's a pretty tasty stat line. Now,
it's a nice per 36. I'm also looking at another stat line, and it's his actual minutes, and they're not above 30. So
who's playing the more minutes on the season, though? I thought this was interesting to just say. DeAndre Bembry has actually played more minutes per game this season than Jeremy Lin.
Really? That is interesting.
By
Jeremy
5 whole minutes.
Jeremy Lin did sit out a few minutes, or a few games, I mean.
Yeah, and Jeremy Lin has been limited to like 10 minutes a game. And this is what makes this question super hard to answer, is the Hawks are one of those teams that have fiddled with their rotations quite a bit this season, and there's no guarantee that they're going to settle on anything. Like the Knicks are another team. We talked about the Knicks, I think, a couple episodes ago, where they just can't decide, right? Do we play Noah Vonleh? Do we play Mitchell Robinson? Do we play Enes Kanter? Do we play this person, this person, this person? And the Hawks are kind of the same way. Now, I'll agree with you that I think Jeremy Lin is probably the better pickup going forward. I think he had a little bit of a slow start coming back from his injury that cost him all but 25 minutes of last season. And I think he's kind of rounding into form. But at any point, I mean, Jeremy Lin's 30 and DeAndre Bembry's 24. The Hawks probably aren't going anywhere this season. So at any point, they could just be like, all right, Jeremy, it was fun, man. We're going to buy you out. We're going to cut you. We're going to just not play you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm looking at it in a short-term sense. You're talking about guys who are at the end of your bench. You're talking about waiver wire players. Right now, Jeremy Lin is, I think, the better pickup in the short term. If you're looking into future seasons, right, Bembry is definitely someone you might want to consider a little bit more at this point. Those tides could turn pretty quickly. But right now, I think Jeremy Lin's the pickup. And looking at the 3 guys that are available to drop,
2 of them I wouldn't even think about, right? Bridges and Isaac. I feel like those 2 are on a much higher level than Mr. Trey Burke. So I think the question is really, would you drop Trey Burke for Jeremy Lin?
I think you're right. Like I was going to say, Bridges, young, has some upside. Though we both agreed kind of in the last episode, Mikal Bridges could have some good upside, but like, is he going to be anything more than a very good standard league streamer? The jury's still out on that. Isaac, on the other hand, huge upside, not playing a lot. So I'm 100% with you. Trey Burke or Jeremy Lin. And those are kind of similar types of players. I actually could be convinced to drop Mikal Bridges if you don't need his particular stats for Jeremy Lin and you want Jeremy Lin's stats a little bit more. But is Trey Burke in the next 2 months, Trey Burke or Jeremy Lin, who has the better next 2 months?
I'm gonna go with Lynn, but I don't know that it's a safe bet.
Yeah, what's the confidence level there on that one? Because
they're the two most head scratching teams for me right now, the Hawks and
they're both trash fire, like just garbage fires. They're trash heaps. They're tire fires. What's some other metaphors I could use? They are dumps in the middle of the road. They are train wrecks on the ocean. I'm done. I'm with you. Like, who knows which either one of these situations could go. And since the confidence level for both of them are kind of similar, I'm going to go with the hotter hand. I'm going to go with the higher ceiling. I'm going to go with Jeremy Lin.
And here's the other thing I'll say about Trey Burke too. Like, Trey Burke doesn't get you many steals and blocks, so that kind of dings his fantasy value in my book. And then Trey Burke scores 13 points a game so far this season, but he's given you 2.3 rebounds and 3.5 assists. Like, those aren't great numbers. Like, he's just kind of a blah stat line, and we've seen Jeremy Lin do a lot better than that. That's not to say that we'll see Jeremy Lin do it this year, but I would say that if both men are getting the same number of minutes, Jeremy Lin's stat line looks a lot better.
I am with you there. Shout out to Nick who sent that listener question. And not only is Nick a listener, I'm pretty sure this is the same Nick who just subscribed to our Patreon at patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. So shout out to Nick. I'm going to butcher your last name. I think it's Linsloan. That's not a real name. What is Nick? You got to tweet at us. Tweet at hash, not at hash basketball. You can tweet at them too, at Watch the Boxes, or tweet at Tyler P. Watts. And tell me how to say your last name, because it looks like Linzolone. Linzolone. Maybe it's Italian. Maybe it's an Italian listener. I'm not sure, Tyler. You know how good I am at saying names.
I was just gonna let you go on this one. I was not gonna poke fun.
You didn't even try to help. I don't appreciate that, actually. Just let me hang out to fucking dry out here. Shout out to Nick, a Patreon subscriber. He has access to exclusive content. He also has a direct line to Tyler and I to help influence the show, and he's helped supporting the show. So shout out to Nick, and also shout out to our newest Patreon subscriber, who went all the way, who is going to be getting a monthly question and answer session directly from me and Tyler. Adam Hochberger, shout out to you, being the very first monthly Q&A recipient. You are one of our top subscribers, and we appreciate you. And we're going to set up a monthly Q&A with you pretty soon. There's not a lot of days left in this month. We might have to prorate it and give you 2 in December, Adam. But shout out to you if you want to be involved in a monthly Q&A with me and Tyler, where we will address your personal questions for your league, and join an exclusive Slack channel where you can talk to us anyway. Go to patreon.com, hit the subscribe button. Nick, on the other hand, he joined, and he is going to be eligible, and so is Adam. Both of them are, for the mid-season. I totally screwed up my draft, and now I need to start over Listener League that we will be starting about halfway through the season. This is I'm officially announcing it. We do have a few people already in that league, but Nick and Adam, by joining, you have first dibs on the I screwed up and now I need to start over Listener League.
Yeah, and it's going to be a fun league. We've seen some injuries already that are obviously going to influence the draft. We've seen some unexpected performances. We've seen some expected performances. So it's always super interesting after, the first month or 2 months to kind of get a second go at it and see what changed just from draft to draft, and see who buys into what starts and what other people are not buying into. That's probably my favorite part about it.
Yeah, I'd also like the fact that you get to redo a draft based on a lot of good information, but the second half of the season is always 20, 30 guys just come out of nowhere and shoot up into the top 75, Even some of them should have been in the top 50. And so there's still a bunch of unknowns left in the regular season. And, is Mitchell, how valuable is Mitchell Robertson in a league that drafts halfway through the season? It's a really good question. And we're going to definitely talk about that draft and publish the results for that. And if you want to be part of that draft, patreon.com/watching the boxes. Shout out to all you subscribers, especially Adam and Nick. Let's get into the waiver wire for this week. There are some hot hands in the dice game out there. We already talked about DeAndre Brimry. Jeez. I'm just butchering people's names out here today.
Dude, Trey Minutes. Trey Minutes took all his minutes.
Trey Minutes is the biggest culprit in ruining Bimry's long-term and even short-term. Obviously, take a flyer on a guy. Bimry is someone I would take a flyer on if I had the space in my team. It just depends on who you're dropping. But he's not, he's not even close to being one of the top pickups in the last few days here. And I just want to shout out to Yahoo for actually having competent people playing in their leagues versus Yahoo or versus ESPN, who I don't know what the statistics over there. I think their databases are still screwed up. I do not know what's going on there. They got Montrezl Harrell as the number one pickup and only owned in 60 or 70% of leagues, and that Montrezl Harrell should be owned in 100% of leagues. Everyone.
The craziest thing about all of their rankings is there are very few players at all who they claim are 100% owned.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense at all.
So, are they catering to these weird you're in an Eastern Conference league? Nikola Vucevic is 89%.
Is that a thing? Why would you want to do an Eastern Conference league? This isn't baseball. I understand only paying attention to the NL because they actually play real baseball where the pitchers actually go to bat instead of the AL, which is something like baseball. I get that.
So
I understand that, but I don't watch any baseball.
3 crazy percentages, okay? Damian Lillard, 99.8%. Mm-hmm. So even Damian Lillard can't get 100% owned in the ESPN league. Klay Thompson, 96%.
Doesn't sound right.
Luka Doncic, 95.3%.
No.
You know what I mean?
Delete your account.
Vucevic, 89%.
There might be 27 dudes out there. Well, hold on. Let me do the math here. What did I just say? That are in 3. There you go. There's 9 leagues with 3 people on them, and all 27 of those dudes, they didn't have room for Luka Doncic on their team.
But if you have so say there's 4 teams, which I think is the minimum, the lowest number you can have. Okay, assuming there's 13-man rosters. Okay, I am not any kind of math whiz or anything. Okay,
I've never said that you were.
But isn't that more than 50 people? And isn't Nikola Vucevic a top 50 player?
Yes.
So I don't understand how he's not owned in every league still. You know what I mean? Even if you're telling me there's some percentage of 4-team leagues out there, assuming that they have a standard 13-man roster, Nikola Vucevic should still be owned in 100% of leagues because there's more than 50 people owned in those leagues.
That is absolutely 100% correct. Guys, don't use ESPN's statistics. We're done using them because we just don't know what the hell they're doing over there. So we're going to use the transactions trends over on Yahoo, also a nice tool. Hashtag Basketball has a little bit better of a tool that shows when people are getting more minutes, but just check out hashtagbasketball.com instead. But we got to see what the people are doing. So we got a lot of data here, and the number one player being added right now is the man, the myth, the legend, Bam Adebayo on the Miami Heat after just 2 stellar games where he was playing close to starters minutes. In fact, one of the games he played the latest game he played 36 minutes, where he was able to pull down 21 rebounds. 16 points, 2 blocks, steal, and 1 assist. Bam Adebayo, a guy we've always kind of said like, hey man, like he's got a lot of raw talent. He could be an interesting fantasy player. What is this 2 to 3 game kind of burst out of Bam Adebayo? Is this something for real, or are we just seeing the results of a very good situation that here in a few weeks will just completely fall apart?
So looking at the Heat's games for the majority of the season, at least, all 48 center minutes get divvied up between Whiteside and Adebayo. Especially recently. So, like you mentioned today, he played 36 minutes. Hassan Whiteside played 12. And they've been doing that for the last good stretch here, and potentially all season. I didn't look at every single game and researching for the show, but so you're having to make the bet if you're going to own Bam Adebayo and you think he's in line for this huge role that basically he's going to get more minutes than Hassan Whiteside. Now, Whiteside's been bothered by a knee injury a little bit, and he's been kind of questionable and then playing, and I actually think he maybe missed a game last week. But I don't really see him overtaking Hassan Whiteside. I think this is kind of just a hot couple games, and he's going to go back to getting the 18 minutes to Hassan Whiteside's 30 pretty quickly.
You have to assume that the Miami Heat, with the glut of pretty decent players that they have, just is still never going to figure this out. Hassan Whiteside, also fantasy-wise, you would want him to be the guy who's playing the most minutes. Every situation isn't always negative, right? Bam Adebayo, wow, we saw some incredible stuff from him. Is he probably going to fall back to like 16, 17 minutes a game when Hassan Whiteside is feeling better? And when he's not in foul trouble? I know Hassan Whiteside gets in foul trouble, every once in a while. Yeah, Hassan Whiteside is going to take that. Like Bam is good, but he's not going to overtake Hassan Whiteside. Like the money is getting paid to Hassan Whiteside. But this should throw up a flag for you to immediately pick up Bam Adebayo whenever you see anything happen to Hassan Whiteside. This goes to show you that they will trust Bam Adebayo at that center spot, that he will be able to produce at a pretty standard league level when it comes to playing over 28 minutes a game. And it should kind of, in the list of things to remember while you're moving throughout the season, Bam Adebayo should be on your watch list or someone you are paying attention to when Hassan Whiteside either goes down, gets set out, gets suspended for God knows what, gets the yips and leaves the league, like whatever happens to Hassan Whiteside, Bam Adebayo is the pickup.
Yeah, and obviously Whiteside gets in foul trouble a little bit more than we'd like, and sometimes that maybe even lets him play somebody else a little bit at center. Taking a little bit deeper look at this. Whiteside this month's playing 25.5 minutes. That's basically what he played last year. In the first month, he played 30 minutes. And that has a lot to do with a couple of 16 and 12-minute games. I just don't really see Bam overtaking this anytime soon.
Yeah, not in the short term. In the long term, I'm a little intrigued, though, because it's not like Bam Adebayo just like, oh, man, this random guy out of nowhere had some really good games, and he'll probably go back to the bench. It's like this young, possibly incredibly talented player just showed he's got some talent. That is something to watch long term.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the jury's still kind of out on him as far as fantasy. We've seen 4 games now where he's gotten over 25 minutes, and 3 of them have been pretty good, and one of them was fairly good, but it left you lacking because he only scored 2 points and he only took 2 shots in 31 minutes against the Hawks. So it's good, but I don't know that it's like win your league good. Now, if Hassan Whiteside went down, I'd obviously be picking up Bam, but I don't really see picking him up with Hassan Whiteside healthy for any reason other than he had 2 good games.
Yeah. This isn't a must-own. This is a, hey, take a flyer, why not type of thing and see what happens. But chances are what's going to happen is Hassan might say is going to take back the minutes. The next guy on this list is, I think this, every couple weeks, Emmanuel Mudiay shows up to play basketball. And apparently over the last few weeks, he has been playing more minutes, and he's been actually scoring. And then on the back of a 27-point game against the Pelicans, in fact, he's also hitting some, consistent threes in that stretch too. He has been targeted by quite a few people out there. Only owned in 24% of leagues, but a huge, huge upswing for Emmanuel Mudiay. Man, like this feels like it feels like I've had an Emmanuel Mudiay conversation every year. I want to say like a few times a year, like every 2 months, and I'm pretty sure we'll have another one here in 2 months. Tyler, Mudiay, are you picking him up? Are you taking a flyer on him? Do you think he's a long-term must own?
No, and maybe
Wow.
no again.
That's a lot of no's. I will have you know, Tyler, before you slander Emmanuel Mudiay, his per game value this season for the entire season is 148.
He's shooting 49.2% from the field. Do you want to take a guess at his career field goal percentage, including that 49.2%, mind you?
I'm going to guess it's under 40.
38.1%, my friend.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so this run's been a lot on unsustainably hot shooting. If we look back to his sophomore season for the Nuggets in 2016-2017, when he played 4 more minutes than he's getting now, and we look at that stat line, like that's not really relevant in a standard league. He was getting 11 points, 0.7 steals, 0.2 blocks, 3.9 assists, 3.2 rebounds, 1 3-pointer on a very bad 37% from the field and 78.4% on free throws. Emmanuel Mudiay just doesn't produce in the defensive categories, despite doing it in the 20 minutes this year. A lot of this is just a little bit of fluky production from Mudiay, and I'm not expecting this to last at all. Now, sure, if you want to take a flyer on this guy for a couple games and just ride it out and hope that he gives you, a couple of games of hot production this week, sure. But as far as picking this guy up and holding him for even a week's time, like he's a guy right now I'd be streaming, and then once the game, like they play on Tuesday, I'd pick him up for Tuesday's game, and then I'd be like, all right, Emmanuel, it was fun, man.
Yeah. Ride the hot hand. It makes a lot of sense. You should never really stray from riding the hot hand. You should always have one spot open on your team for the hot hand on the waiver wire, right? And Mudiay is that guy. I just think the name, the youth, the where he was drafted, how he was drafted, gets a lot of people a little too excited. And even with this very productive, good run, Emmanuel Mudiay is still only averaging 24 minutes a game. And, like, that's just not enough for me. Like, the Knicks, of all teams, the Knicks are even saying, well, Mudiay is playing well, but I don't want him to play starters minutes. And, like,
and
that's insane. Like, the Knicks are terrible. So,
well, especially at that point guard position.
Yeah.
Like, Trey Burke is the guy, right? That we just talked about. That he can't get the minutes over Trey Burke.
Yeah. I mean, he's starting, but Mudiay is starting, but it hasn't meant a whole lot in his minutes per game.
Yeah, I mean, and we talk about some guys like have up and down games. This guy's played 34 minutes once and 29 minutes once, and then other than that, his season high is 24 minutes. So even like expecting him to bubble up and play a bunch of minutes, he's done that 2 times so far this season. So even that's not happening. Like, there's just not a lot for me to love here, and there's not a lot for me to latch onto other than, like you mentioned, in his last 6 games, he's had 4 pretty good games.
Yeah, do not get your hopes up for Emmanuel Mudiay. I do want to give a shout out to someone. His name is Tyler Watts, who recommended Corey Joseph as a pickup in our last episode. And I think a lot of people must have listened because they went out and picked up Corey Joseph off the waiver wire. And he had another good, pretty decent game. Played 26 minutes and hit some threes for everybody. And like Tyler said, he's playing 4 games this week. You're going to get some good value out of Corey Joseph. We did talk about him in the last episode. And another shout out to a Tyler Watts favorite, Terrence Ross on the Orlando Magic. It feels like we're going to be talking about Terrence Ross probably off and on this, probably every 3 weeks on this waiver wire episode, because that is just how often people realize he's hitting threes at an incredible level. He's only owned in 38% of leagues, but he's still a quality three-pointer and points guy, and he's actually scored 26 tonight in a game against the Golden State Warriors that is not over yet. So props to Terrence Ross.
Yeah, and Ross is just kind of criminally under-owned this year, and I'm hoping that trend doesn't continue, because Ross deserves to be owned right now. I mean, a lot of this month has been fueled by a little bit of hot shooting, but still, I mean, Ross for the whole season has been producing, and the Magic are giving him the 25 minutes he needs to be productive in a couple categories. And yeah, especially in deeper leagues, like I'd love to have Terrence Ross on my team.
Absolutely. Here's a couple guys that I'm a little surprised about how many people own these two guys. All right. I'm talking about Noah Vonleh, owned in 53% of leagues, and Colin Sexton owned in 59% of leagues. Now, I will give a quick shout out to Colin Sexton, who kind of fell off. A guy we have not been touting terribly highly, even going into the season. We're like, Colin Sexton, he's just whatever. But the Cleveland Cavaliers have pretty much just said, like, oh, we're going to play the youth, we're going to gut the team, and we're going to allow Colin Sexton to play a crap ton of minutes. And in that time, he has turned out to be a guy who can score. He is giving you, over the last 2 weeks, over the last 7 games, 19 points per game. Over the last month, 15 points per game. Here's the problem. He's not doing anything.
He's a fantasy trap, man.
He's not doing anything else.
And here's the second thing to say about that. For this month, he's shooting 48.7%, including on basically 2 3-point attempts a game. He's shooting 57.1%.
That doesn't make any sense to me. That's it's like seeing an albino squirrel, man. Every once in a while.
But here's the thing, though. So he's basically got one category he's helping you in, which is points. And he's probably going to end up about a 42, 43, maybe 44% shooter from the field.
Yeah,
meaning that points category is going to dip to like 13 a game. And then he's giving you 13 points with literally nothing else, because he doesn't get steals. He doesn't get blocks. His assists are 2.5 this month, and his rebounds are 2.8. Like, it's just, there's nothing really here for fantasy. He doesn't really hit 3-pointers. He's only making 0.7 per game on the season. It's just, it's a very empty line. And if you want Colin Sexton, sure, if you need points, he might be the best guy available on the waiver wire, at least right now while he's shooting hot. But I don't really see owning Colin Sexton for the entire season, because he's not giving you enough. It'd be like owning Mitchell Robinson. Now, again, Mitchell Robinson's minutes have been down a little bit lately, but like when Mitchell Robinson was playing like 20 minutes a game, he was averaging like 2 blocks a game. Well, that's great, but he wasn't doing literally anything else. So, I mean, you could own a one category guy, but to me, I stream a one category guy. I don't really own a one category guy.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I just think don't let the fool's gold of minutes per game or points per game trick you. Colin Sexton is just an all right, borderline waiver wire player. That's it. That's all he is. And so is, by the way, Noah Vonleh. I don't care what he's doing right now.
He's a one category player too. The category is just rebound.
Well, I'm gonna give him a few props for picking up his game a little bit, getting some rebounds, hitting some threes, and getting some blocks, and also like keeping those steal number almost to 1. I'm gonna give him some props. I would much rather own Noah Vonleh than Colin Sexton. That's for sure.
Yeah, right now, but
sure.
At the moment that he starts playing 10 minutes a game, which we've seen 4 games this season where he's basically played 10 minutes, that's going to be scary, right?
Absolutely. Like the Knicks could completely just take a big dump on him and say, feel free, Noah Vonleh, not to play anymore. But, over the last stretch, he's started quite a few games over the last stretch.
The last 10 games, he's averaging 30 minutes.
Yeah. And in the last 4 games, he's had some very, very good numbers. The threes and the points are not always going to be there. And
threes at 41% for the season are definitely not going to be there. Like, I don't think Noah Vonleh became a 40% three-point shooter while we were taking a nap in the offseason.
I hope not, because I'd be a little upset if the Chicago Bulls just gave away a perfectly good, decent player. Even though the Chicago Bulls make a lot of dumb decisions, and I had to drink at home if you're waiting for me to mention the Chicago Bulls. Noah Vonleh is not this caliber of a player. He's having a really good stretch. You should ride that good stretch. I think you should own him and keep owning him until he falls off. In fact, you could even try to trade Noah Vonleh, sell high on that, because who knows what the future will hold for Noah Vonleh, especially when, let's say a certain Kristaps Porzingis comes back. And I do think Kristaps Porzingis will play at least a few months this season.
Yeah, no guarantees on that, though. But yeah, I would safely say that he probably returns somewhere in the January, February range, if I'm guessing.
That is what the plan is. And actually, speaking of returns, sounds like Larry Marketing is on his way to returning as well. Shout out.
We got a lot of good injury news today. Monday when we're recording this. Steph Curry's on his way back, right? He might play on Thursday, so that was positive.
Always.
Larry Marketing's on his way back. So yeah, it was a good, as far as returning guys, Draymond Green's gonna play probably in this 5-game road trip the Warriors are on. So yeah, it was a lot of good injury news. Anthony Davis returned after missing a game. So yeah, we had a lot of good injury stuff, and that's always positive. Because
I like good injury news. I don't like the bad injury news. No matter who I'm playing and who I don't like in fantasy or in the league in general, you don't want bad injury news.
Nothing makes me more upset or mad like when a guy, like, you whoop somebody and then they're like, oh yeah, well, I had this person injured or that person injured. Like, okay, but I beat you like 8-0. I mean, come on. Like, what was that guy gonna do?
I had someone injured as well, so sorry about you. Like, everyone's gonna deal with that every once in a while. You're gonna lose some weeks just simply because you had some injuries. It happens to everybody. And you know what? Steph Curry, him coming back is gonna help me a lot in the Dynasty League, because Steph Curry is he's almost unfair when it comes to fantasy. And he was starting out the season like he was going to have one of those I'm the best player in the league seasons. And I still think he could. So, now if you didn't buy low on Steph Curry, you lost your chance. I don't think you could. I think if anybody owns Steph Curry, they're not letting him go.
Well, I mean, it all depends on what you consider low, too. Like, if you really think he's going to be the best player, and you could maybe package, like, I don't know, Nikola Jokic and Gary Harris against Steph Curry. Like, at some point, right? Like, if you really think he's going to be the absolute best player, that might be worth it.
I do. I do think he's going to be the best player. I do think he's worth it.
My point is that buying low? No, I think that's buying at probably the market's value. But in the grand scheme of things, like, if the other person's thinking Steph Curry's the 8th best player and you're thinking he's the number 1 player, like, that's where I get the most discrepancies as far as like trades with people where I think I really won the deal and he feels good that he won the deal, is I'm valuing one of the players in the trade differently than he's valuing them.
That is usually why my deals never go through. It always feels like you gotta almost cheat the system a little bit and figure out a way to make someone value. You almost got to talk the person up. Just be like, yeah, this guy doesn't look like he's valuable, but in your punt strategy, he is. And I don't know why I have to go figure that out for you. You should probably already know that. But I'm not going to get into that here. I'm not going to get into that here, Tyler. I don't want to slander anybody. I don't want to talk any more trash than I have to. And I like to, how much I like to talk trash.
Exactly.
I think that is about it for our waiver wire players. A lot of good waiver wire players out there. If you have a waiver wire question or a question about your team, tweet at us at Watch the Boxes at Tyler P. Watts. Or if you want a direct line to us, so you can get listener questions on the show, so you can get into the listener league, the mid-season listener league, or even do a Q&A monthly with us, check out patreon.com/watching the boxes, just like Nick and Adam did. Shout out to them. Shout out to all the listeners. We do this for you. Let us know your feedback, and we're out of here. We'll see you next time.